Hello, ladies and gentlemen, Nick here, and welcome to what is the first video on my channel, or at least the main channel, in 2025, besides the trailer for the upcoming Earth Agents episode 19, Love Well or Die Hard, that played at the end of the prequel episode 0, Agent Nick Begins, which was released on New Year's Eve and serves as a prequel to the rest of the series. Please do check out that special if you haven't already. But quite a bit of time and effort into all of these episodes, and whilst episode 18 is still currently blocked worldwide, at least we were able to get another one out by the end of the year, with episode 19 initially planned for the end of last year, now being pushed back to hopefully February, but we'll see how that goes. I'm planning a few more, or at least one more, further on down the line for the 10th anniversary later in the year as well. So, yeah, this is also the first video I'm recording on a brand new phone that I got for Christmas, because the old one was playing up a little bit back in November, and still keeping hold of that one, but it's mostly going to be for home stuff like video recording. But I'm going to record this first one on my new phone to see how it looks. It might be better quality, but it'll be mostly for external stuff, whilst the other phone is more for internal. Well, they'll do a bit of both. Oh, they'll both do a bit of internal stuff, but this one's primarily for external, and the other one's more for internal. But yeah, sorry, just have to grab something. This video is actually not going to be that happy of a video, as you may have read from the title. Unfortunately, it sort of serves as a follow-up to the Thomas video that I did I recorded in October. It came out in November, because I didn't edit it until about mid-November, about a month later. But that was the 40th anniversary of the Thomas and Friends TV series. And whilst I would like to do a follow-up video about the 80th anniversary of the books in May or June, or even April, unfortunately, a piece of news has come to light yesterday. Time recording, it's Friday the 4th of January 2025. So yesterday, on Friday the 3rd of January 2025, we heard the news that sadly Thomas and Friends TV show creator and the woman who brought the Reverend Awdry's books, the Railway series books, to the small screen and later to the big screen with Thomas and the Magic Railroad, the film, Britt Allcroft, has sadly passed away on the 27th of December 2024 at the age of 81. Britt Allcroft, say what you like about her, because some of the decisions she made back in the day, not all of them were the best, but it is without a doubt that without her meeting Wilbert Awdry at, I believe it was the Bluebell Railway, down in East Sussex, down in the UK. Without her meeting him when doing a documentary about the Bluebell Railway, she would not have become fascinated with the books, like everybody else at the time, and she would not try her best to make them a TV series, to create a TV series with the models and with David Mitton as director and Ringo Starr as the narrator, Mike O'Donnell and Juno Campbell, music composers, and the rest of the fantastic team making that series. And they would not have made the amazing television series that I talked about back in the autumn that has recently turned 40, based on the now nearly 80-year book series. We would not have this little guy on the small screen in a highly successful franchise as it is today. Granted, it's been a bit of a rocky road for the series, as I touched upon in that video, but without Britt Allcroft and the passion and magic that she brought to the original first couple of series in the 80s and 90s and early 2000s, well, not so much Series 7 because she had left the company by then, but Series 6 was her last series. But from 1984 to 2002, under her stewardship, even in a smaller position in the case of Series 6, she helped redefine the characters, bring them to the small screen, adapted the stories with David Mitton, wrote some new ones with him and Andrew Brenner, and who himself would later go on to take over the series in the 2010s for a couple of years. um, and you just made it the best show, the best children's show out there in 1984 through until into the 90s. And yeah, it was absolutely wonderful. I would, as I mentioned, I would not be into as much fan things without it. I mean, without Thomas, I probably might have latched onto something else early on, and I did watch a couple of other stuff at the time, but Thomas was the big one, and it's helped me through a lot, and it's helped me as a person with love of trains and railways as an enthusiast, and with the characters and how fun it is, and it's kind of getting me through some difficult periods in a way. And yeah, it's just the show or people talking about the show online in videos has helped in a way alongside with the other franchises and other things. And I also still enjoy the Magic Railway film. That was probably the first film, save for maybe one of the Disney films that I saw, possibly even the very first. That might even be the case. And yeah, she wrote and directed that. And whilst it did come under a couple of producer and executive changes, and maybe it wasn't the best couple of ideas to do, considering the lore of the franchise. But I still enjoy it to this day, and I've probably enjoyed it even more. I definitely enjoyed it more back then. It was Thomas the Tank Engine. Little kid me. But even little kid me didn't even tell the difference too much. I knew there was differences between the older series and the hit stuff when that came around, but I don't think I was as judgmental about it as I am a bit more now, at least until they started moving the faces, but kept the narrator, and they didn't change the voice actors till they went fully CG. Um, but yeah, I just like to say that without Britt Allcroft, we wouldn't have Thomas as it is now. She brought Thomas to a wider audience than the books did. Because of course, Wilbert Awdry created the series, created the books, he created the world and the lore, wrote the stories, created the characters, etc. And they were big hits as books. But without Britt Allcroft, David Mitton, and the TV series, Thomas probably wouldn't be as well wide regarded. And the older series with the models, is at least up to series 5 or even series 7, has quite a bit of a charm about it, and it looks really great, and it's really nice. And even the CG series, they still try to model themselves off the models, the CG models off the engine models for the most parts, and same for the merchandise. I mean, to varying effects, and even the models of the actual engines don't always represent the ones from the drawings from the books or the original basis of the engines, but it's they all look really great in the model form, and they look really good. It probably was quite a costly measure to how they made the series back then, but well, the series made lots of money, and more money as it went along, so they were able to afford it as time went on. After the first series was such a hit, and she had Britt Allcroft had to mortgage her house to pay for the pilot. Um, and then the series was greenlit, and then the first series made. It was a massive hit, and then more series were made, and yeah, and yeah, without her, we wouldn't have had that series. We wouldn't have Thomas as we know it, and yeah, and I think it stands to say that she was probably one of the most influential women in film and television history, at least in the British TV industry. One of the most influential ones out there, creating not only a massive, brilliant British series, which is arguably, if cited as the best or one of the best children's television shows ever, at least back in the 80s and 90s anyway, and even still holds some of that to this day, despite the ups and downs since. But also a series that is highly regarded and highly loved all over the world, in the United States, in Australia, in Japan especially. Um, those three, especially outside the UK, loved the series. In Canada, when they who have been doing the CG and later the 2D animations for All Engines Go. So they've been doing 3D animation and then later 2D animation for the series. And so it's incredible that, and also the days out with Thomas events are all over the world. It's not just the UK, the US, and I think Japan have them as well. And it's, we wouldn't have any of that. We wouldn't have all the merchandise. We wouldn't have any of this if it weren't for Britt Allcroft. I mean, like I said, the books were still heavily popular, but the series would not have taken off as well as it did without the TV series. It's the same with the James Bond films. The books were super popular, but the series was not an international juggernaut. The franchise was not an international juggernaut until the films. And yeah, it's such a shame that she's gone now, even though it's been more than 20 years since she was in charge of the show. But at least she got to see it turn 40, even though she didn't get to see the books turn 80. But she at least got to see her show turn 40, and also the Unlikely Fandom documentary screening back in November. And I'm glad she got to appreciate seeing the fans at the event and discussing with them and how their love for the show. And yeah, it's a shame that she's gone. Big figure in British television history, especially for women, and the creator of one of the biggest children's television shows in the world, certainly at least British. And yeah, it's undeniable how much of an impact that she and director David Mitton, who directed the series, who's also no longer with us, he passed away about 2011, I think. It's unquestionable how much of an impact they had on the television landscape, and later maybe not so much on the film landscape, but at least the series made it a jump to the big screen at one point. And yeah, it's a shame that they're gone now. They're now up in Thomas Heaven, along with some of the great voice narrators like Michael Angelis and George Carlin. For you US fans, George Carlin narrated series 3 and 4 and redid series 1 and 2 after Ringo Starr stepped down. And Michael Angelis, of course, did the UK one from series 3 to 16, as well as 5 of the specials. And almost was in Magic Railroad, but he was replaced after executives thought he was, and kids thought he was too old. Test audience screening kids and executives. Bit of a shame he wasn't in it at all, because it would have meant it could have the UK's narrator would have been in the film, just like the US narrator's one, Alec Baldwin, in a role in the film. But never mind. It's a shame, but we can't fix it now. But anyway, yeah, Britt Allcroft has now joined David Mitton, Michael Angelis, George Carlin, and the late Reverend Wilbert Awdry himself up in Thomas Heaven. And yeah, and I'd just like to say thank you very much, Britt. I know, well, maybe you can hear me from Thomas Heaven. Thank you, and all of the other Thomas fans and people who grew up with the series, saying thank you and rest in peace, and all of their stories and messages. So if you are up there listening, and if not, then everyone down on Earth who's watching this video can hear it instead. But if you are, then they can hear it as well. To say thank you very much for bringing Thomas the Tank Engine and his friends to the small and later big screens, from books to TV and then even to film, and to the franchise juggernaut it has become. Thank you very much, and thank you for helping shape and change people's lives, especially children's of the younger children, and giving them friends for life, basically. So, for what could be the last time, what is the last time, sadly, for Britt Allcroft, let's give them one more toast to say thank you very much. And if it wasn't for you, we wouldn't have this amazing series, and these amazing characters on the small and big screens. Here's to you, Britt Allcroft. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for watching, ladies and gentlemen, and I shall see you guys next time. Hopefully the next time I talk about Thomas the Tank Engine, we will be back to more positive discussions, maybe for the 80th anniversary of the book series, the Railway series books and stories. And I shall see you guys next time. Goodbye.